Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence figuring things out, welcome back to another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Archaic Skids. I'm, of course, your host, Archaic Skids, and we have with us Adam Patrick, who is hilarious, and he always makes me laugh with crazy nonsense. What's up, Adam? How you doing?
How are you, sir? Thank you.
I'm great. Tell people who you are and what you're about.
All right. So I'm a career restaurant and bar owner, and you can imagine what this last 15 months has been like for people like me in this industry. And I've been somewhat of an anarchist probably my whole life, starting, Rage Against the Machine style anarchist when I was a kid, and then learning in the mid 2000s about Rothbard and Mises. And I got an economics degree and explored that pretty early. So when the Ron Paul movement came around, I was kind of primed for it. And then, but, once you kind of get a handle on all that stuff and settle into a career like I did, I got very intellectually lazy and kind of sat on my laurels for libertarianism, Austrian economics, anarcho-capitalism. So when the, pandemic hit, it was a scramble to kind of get my brain restarted and my motivation back into this community and start trying to figure out, how did this happen? Why did it happen? And what can I do to, first and foremost, take care of myself if something like this happens again, but also contribute kind of to the, the working body of kind of all of us in this space. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. We can get more specific if you'd like.
And we are going to get more specific because one of the interesting factors, I've had everyone on from politicians to nuclear operators to just your run-of-the-mill libertarian that wants to talk about in the Fed. But you may actually be the one person that has been, well, maybe not the most affected, but you by far, your particular industry was, in my opinion, the most affected by all this bullshit that just took place over the last 15, 16 months since March of last year or whatever, 15 days to slow the spread 16 months ago. So I guess I wanna know, let's go from the beginning. So when they said, hey, we're going to shut everything down, non-essential, right? Which my audience knows that I think is the most ridiculous term ever used in the history of ever. But when they said that we're going to shut down all these non-essential businesses, where did your head go? For a guy that runs bars and restaurants, that's got to be just like, oh shit, what do I do now?
I could even go back a little bit farther than that to answer your question. Okay. I had divested myself of ownership in my my barbecue restaurant in late 2017, early 2018, and I was lucky enough to get out of I don't want to get into a Bitcoin conversation. I'm going to drive everybody crazy, all the maximalists or whatever. But I converted all of my Bitcoin to dollars right before the 2017 kind of collapse of that market. So I was able to take a lot of time off and kind of enjoy my life. I was single for the first time in 15 years and had a new dog. And so I was kind of just working part-time at my friends' restaurants to stay into the community. And I had also been running a 501c6 trade organization here in Connecticut for the bar and restaurant industry. I divested myself of that as well. So working part-time through most of 2018, most of 2019, when, the holidays of 2019 came around and, the couple of restaurants that I was working in, people started, wearing the gloves and talking about the news and joking around about the Rona. If you served Corona beer, it was a running joke with the kitchen staff. Nobody really took it seriously. But I don't remember if it was late December, early January, something clicked in my head that this wasn't a joke and it wasn't going away. And so for context, the restaurants were shut down March 17th, 2020 here in Connecticut. So this is going to be right after New Year's. I contacted a friend of mine and I said, I want to find a full-time restaurant job. I don't want to own anything because I think something really bad is coming. And I want a highly capitalized, under-leveraged business with relatively wealthy ownership. They have to have either a very large patio or a parking lot they can turn into a patio. I just see a bunch of shit coming. And then the day I was supposed to start that job was March 17th, and that's when they shut down the restaurants. So when we reopened on May 20th, so a little bit over a year ago now, a year and a week, The restaurant that I ended up at, we actually had the best summer we'd ever had in the 6 years it was open. We had 100-person, industrial sized tent outside. We implemented like 8 ghost kitchens on Uber Eats and, DoorDash and those things. And we added gratuities for the in-house staff on that. It was probably one of the most lucrative restaurant years I've ever had in the 16 years I've been doing this. And throughout all of that, the reason that I was able to make those adjustments is because I allowed myself to see the cycles and patterns play out. And that particular viewpoint is kind of what led me to start listening to, podcasts like Free Man Beyond the Wall, and then getting in touch with Vin Armani, realizing that other people were seeing the same things I was seeing. And then so I just dove right back into this community again after being, like I said, intellectually lazy for so long.
Right on. So, I mean, it's awesome to see that, there was a huge amount of this community that saw what was coming. They, maybe not at the stage or the early stage that you saw it, where you were like, they're gonna pull some shit on us. But even in March, like for instance, right, when they announced this 15 days nonsense, a huge amount of people that I know were like, it's not going to be 15 days. That's not not true. That's never going to happen. I was one of those people. My wife and I took precautionary measures because we knew that to be what it was going to be. And now, so I guess here's my question. You've been a little over a year now, 16 months into this fucking nightmare. What are your, one of the things that I've noticed is that food costs have risen, lumber costs, it's like all the costs, like obviously we have inflation, it's running rampant. If the government doesn't admit it, it doesn't mean it's not happening. What are some of the precautions, at least on your end, that you took because you had to have saw that coming, given your expertise?
Well, we have minimum pricing for bars in Connecticut. And I was saying this on another show. I don't remember which one. I don't know every state and how the state governments work liquor controls. But in Connecticut, you can only sell things. You can't sell things for less than a certain amount. So what you end up doing is rather than having, maximum and minimum pricing. So what you end up doing.
So you have price controls.
Right. So rather than having, exorbitant prices on stuff to mitigate supply and demand, what you end up having is massive shortages. So we went from being, and everybody's going to understand this if they understand Austrian economics. So rather than have, the flood of beer, wine, and liquor that we had prior to the pandemic, it took me like 2.5 months to get a German Pilsner on tap. IPAs dried up. It was impossible to get tequila imported. I think I had Don Julio tequila on back order for like 5.5 months, which is obviously what's going to happen when you have price control. So we didn't see inflation like that. In the food market, the grocery stores did, and restaurants kind of did. And I think I might just be very lucky. The particular county I work at in Connecticut is very wealthy, and so we don't see that so much. But when I go like to northern Connecticut or I travel out of the state, I can see it much more prominently. I didn't experience that here probably as much as people would expect, but there were certainly times we couldn't get pork for like a month, or then you couldn't get steak for a month. And so you just, revamp your menu. And we have the ability to do that. We're not a corporate restaurant like a Texas Roadhouse where like you're fucking stuck with steak. So we can like, all right, we can't get steak this week. We're just going to take it off the menu and sell something else. And we're a neighborhood pub. So like kind of the less trendy the dishes are in a very wealthy community, it's a perfect storm of being able to weather shit like that. But there were times you'd go to like, we have Stop and Shop up here. So it's like a Publix or a Grand U, whatever, local grocery chain you have. For a long time, you couldn't get a lot of stuff. For sure, you couldn't. Yeah. But you could get something. So I don't know how that translates around the country. I think we probably weathered it here better than most. Right.
Just for fun here, you said you're like whatever your local grocery is. That's not a real thing anymore. Not in America. There's no local. It's It's all corporate. They just changed the name of shit. So Albertsons, Safeway, same thing.
Yeah.
You know, Kroger is Smith's, City Market, whatever. It's all the same shit. Anyway, that's not my point. My point is that, and I've said this before, so anyone watching this is going to know this. I found it humorous. In the beginning, I found it humorous, and it became less funny after the fact. But when they shut everything down and they said, well, you know, people need to have money, right? And so the government comes up with this batshit nonsensical crazy plan of we're going to send you $1,200, right? In the beginning. So you can't go to work. I hope you didn't make 150 grand a year, because don't worry, we're going to give you $1,200. Like, it's fine. You'll be fine. You know, plus we're not going to make you pay rent or mortgage or whatever. Sure. But that's of course temporary. It's always going to be temporary. Needless to say, I remember after that actually took place and people were starting to collect that check from the government. I was at my local Walmart and I saw TVs being sold, these 70-inch flat screens, like it was fucking tax season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, okay, there's no toilet paper, right? There's no paper products in general. Like, they were all gone. Like the you know, toilet paper shortage of 2020. But so I'm in there getting like canned vegetables and meat and stuff like that to go in the deep freeze. And these people are buying TVs. And I thought to myself, like, they can't be this stupid, right? I don't know. Was it the same thing for you? Did you see that same shit?
Again, I'm in a very unique position in Southern Fairfield County, Connecticut. It's, you know, it might as well be Beverly Hills in a lot of areas that you know, I'm tangentially live around that area, but working in it, it's, you know, we don't have like mom and pop stores here. We have boutique stores, right? They're privately owned, but like they sell really expensive shit. So there's like there's a Whole Foods knockoff. It's called like Whole Market or something, but it's not, it's beautiful inside. It's got like gold paved fucking, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I guess the people who live here live in excess anyway, which is to their detriment. It's also something that, you know, while you can weather the storm easily in a place like this, it is the kind of place where, like, if the grid goes down for 2 weeks, people will literally eat themselves. So there's that trade-off, because nobody here would know how to survive without electricity for more than a couple of days. So once the gas in their generator, that they probably bought like 15 generators that run their home in the event of a blackout. But once the gas runs out and they can't run their generator, they'll literally all fucking kill themselves. So we didn't get to that point, and so people had enough dollars to kind of weather this. So I didn't really see it. And so I think that, like, I always had one foot out the door of Southern Fairfield County, because, like I said, if it got to that point, and I think a lot of us didn't know, even if the pandemic was going to be like,
why would you have one foot out the door? If it gets to that point, you become Adam Patrick, the warlord.
Well, Adam Patrick, like, Air Force
easily
instructor, you know, it's
like you could take this shit over in like 14 seconds. You just roll out there like, okay, all those weapons of war you were all concerned about, this is what it looks like. And of course it'd be like a 22, but they wouldn't know the difference. It'd be fine.
I mean, I would never go on the record and tell people that I own firearms, because I don't know, I'll just say they're dangerous or some shit. But if I were to have a bunch, they would probably be strategically located around my particular living area, and perhaps I'd even hypothetically have like a cabin on the New Hampshire-Maine border, or like some escape routes to the south, or possibly a way to get to Mexico. Hypothetically, maybe.
Of course, hypothetically.
So
I mean, obviously,
there's always that. But to be completely honest, I kind of like the kind of bougie lifestyle that I've been able to earn through my hard work over all this time. And I really wanted this area to survive. But you know, if it comes down between me and them, fuck them. You know, that's how it's always going to be. Right.
I think that's just people in general. But I also agree with you. Anyone that, like, I get really, really fucking irritated. And look, I don't care about Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, any of these fucks, right? Elon Musk, I don't care. Like, whatever, you do you. But when people are like, well, they have too much, I'm like, okay, but they got that some kind of a way, right? They did something that brought this value to them. You can be upset with the fact that they have more than you. I guess I think it's ridiculous. Like, why don't you just like go find a way to be them? Like, that seems reasonable. However, I have no issue with your bougie life. I think that's great, and everyone should focus on trying to have that. You know, so good job on acquiring it.
I've been through so many peaks and valleys that at this point, it's like, I went from having to basically sign up for every credit card on the planet to try to get myself to pay my rent to, working myself up by my bootstraps and figuring something out. But, it's interesting you said.
Wait, do people still have credit cards? Is that still real?
I currently have zero. I have no debt at all. I haven't had debt in
good.
It's been 11 years since I've had any form of debt. But man, did I fall into that fucking trap when I did. It was really bad. So I learned my lesson the hard way. But it was interesting you were talking about Elon Musk and Bezos and all those people, because libertarians over the last year have found themselves in a very interesting position of 5, 6, 7 years ago. A lot of us would have been defending Walmart as, it's low price for poor people. It's access to goods that you wouldn't have been able to get before.
I would not have done that 7 years ago or 10 years ago. I never would have done that.
I probably wouldn't have either, but you probably remember that was
the
talking point. And,
yes.
And now quite the opposite has become the talking point. And it's very interesting to watch this sort of evolution or devolution, or I don't know, symbiotic relationship between the two that libertarians have sort of worked out over the last 15 months or so. I don't know if you've seen it as much as I have, but it's been very, very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think what I think happened was I think big tech happened. I think YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, these outfits happened, and I think it opened the eyes of a bunch of libertarians to the point that, look, places like Walmart, Target, fucking Ford, American Airlines, these are not private companies in the way libertarians think of a private company, right? So like for you, for instance, right, you wanted a privately owned restaurant, not a corporate restaurant, someone that had to be, because you could see something coming, right?
Yep.
So that's a private business that can risk it. They can take on the government and be like, no, we have a right to operate our business, whatever, right? Well, here's the thing with like, and I think that a lot of it comes down to is that none of these assholes are private companies. They're all working directly hand in hand with government on all situations. So now the government will try this nonsense, like with COVID passports, for instance, right? Well, we're not requiring it, but a private business. Who do you think they're speaking to? They're speaking to Republicans and libertarians. And I'm over here as a libertarian going, wait, no. You don't get to be the regulator of Walmart and then tell me, well, Walmart requires it not. Eat a dick, you lying little bastards. So they're all government. In my opinion, all these massive corporations are government. And I think a lot of libertarians are starting to realize that so long as they continue to work together the way they have, they're all government.
Yeah, I mean, there's such an economic incentive, and it's obviously a fucked incentive, but there's an incentive for these companies to co-opt through regulatory capture, right? The ideas of the state, because it gives them more power. The idea of crony capitalism or corporatism or whatever you want to call it, but regulatory capture, rent seeking, the ability to gain more power in the market. Certainly there were a lot of libertarians and anarchists talking about this before COVID, but possibly the reason that so many have hopped on the bandwagon since is, like you referred to there, to your point, when the tech companies started involving themselves in censorship, because it actually affected libertarians directly. Whereas before, maybe it didn't actually touch their lives. A lot of us or them in the community, we're speaking a lot in hypotheticals or in theory. And when the world, when life comes home to you and affects you directly, then you find a lot of times that a lot of those theories and hypotheticals go out the window and you change your opinions on things. I found that evolution happened probably because of tech, when people are just getting, when you boot the president of the United States off of Twitter, like you start thinking, well, fuck, who's really in charge here?
Yeah.
And I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit about Donald Trump one way or the other. It's just fucking creepy that could even happen. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the quote unquote most powerful person on the planet. Really? Is he?
Toast, right?
Because it's like, and it wasn't Twitter. It was fucking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere. They all just went, yeah, you're not allowed to have a voice anymore. Thanks for playing. That shit is scary creepy.
Yeah, because when you think about, the technology, what technology allows people to do now is they don't have to put you on a boxcar and send you off to the gulag, right? They just have to deplatform you from every voice, every platform you could have a voice on. And that's it. You might as well be dead. If you can't speak to anybody or have any power, it's so
yeah, what are you gonna do? Go fucking what Donald Trump's gonna do is go to weddings and interrupt them there at Mar-a-Lago. But yeah, to your point, yeah, what are you gonna do? Where are you going? What are you supposed to say? How are you supposed to get your message out? You can't.
Yeah.
These people, here's the thing. I don't know as libertarians or anarchists how we deal with something like that. You know what I mean? Other than don't use it, like, I guess would be the thing. But how are you supposed to not? That's the problem. They have taken over the commons and they have control of the commons. And so it's like, it's one of those situations where as a libertarian, you're like, well, shit, this is problematic because this is the private market, even though they were very much propped up by the state. But now it's like, okay, but we kind of need to get them fucking under control. And I suppose that's an issue that libertarians and anarchists are definitely going to have an issue with. Like, how do we balance our ideology to these people are out of control? Obviously, they have too much power over the commons, but we also understand that the private entity argument, even though in my opinion they're not, because they were completely propped up by the state, so they're basically state actors.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes down to that the eternal non-aggression principle battle, right? Where if you're going to wait until the bullet gets fired before you do something to not have it fired into your skull, it's too late. So at what point do?
By the way, I do not condone that. No. Yeah, that part of NAP can bite me.
I mean, any reasonable person would agree with you, I think, but there's plenty of unreasonable people in this movement that really push the line where it's going to be too late to do something. So at what point? I mean, I could just throw out a hypothetical. At what point does the very existence of the state, prove to be aggressionary, right? The very act of existing.
1915.
Yeah, I mean, so what actually needs to be done? I'm not sure. I think everybody needs to individually decide what they're willing to risk, and also, like I said about my own personal intellectual laziness, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but all too often, many of us are concerned with tearing down or reacting against the current system, and so much less concerned with building something new or creating something of value that we can use as an antidote or an opposite or another choice. And those people that are out there doing that, I think, they might not be successful the first couple go rounds, but maybe the next platform they create or the next little civilization in the middle of nowhere they create is the thing that ends up surpassing this fucking Leviathan that's destroying everybody's lives. I think that the creation part of libertarianism tends to get washed away within the little kind of the in-group. I don't want to sound rude when I say this, but like rather than kind of move in our little social circle, go find a way to create the other thing that's going to supplant this current thing and then share that with people. I don't know. It's just something I've been trying to do a little bit better. And I don't know if I'm getting there yet, but that's, I think, so much more valuable than working on just tearing this thing down. Because what if we do? What if we do tear this thing down and we have nothing to replace it with? It's just going to come back even stronger and more powerful than before.
Right. I can't even. I don't know that I can even explain how much I agree with that. And that's one of the things that I've been very focused on. And anyone that follows me or follows my channel for the most part knows that I've had Mark Schneider, who was a nuclear operator, on. Like, I don't know. I think we've done like almost 17 hours of content at this point, right? And my reasoning is because the Libertarian Party as a whole has never had an energy message, right? It's always, the free market will figure it out. And I'm like, normies don't know what that means, right? That confuses the shit out of them. And so my argument has consistently been over the last couple of months that no, we have the technology to have almost free energy. Not free, but almost free. Like very clean, very safe, very inexpensive energy. The technology already exists. We have it, right? We just have to convince people that it's all the things that 10 minutes of research tells you that it is. And so I've been really focused on that, but it's extraordinarily hard to do because I talk to the libertarians or whatever, and I go, hey, we have to have an energy message. And they're like, no, we're not supposed to tell people how their energy is supposed to get to them. And I'm like, right. Okay, Archie Flower, bite me. Like, it's not, I'm not trying to tell people what they should do. I'm just saying, like, this is an option. You know what I mean? But realistically, I'm not actually speaking to libertarians with the nuclear message. I'm speaking to Republicans and Democrats. Honestly, I mean, to be honest, that's who I'm reaching towards, because libertarians will go, well, if that's what the free market decides, so it won't be that hard,
Well, I mean that, libertarians are their own worst enemies. Really, it's
many times, yes.
And I will use that term to describe myself, or I'll say philosophically anarchist, but I certainly don't think it's applicable to everything that I think or do, and I don't care. If somebody says, well, you're not a real libertarian, I'm like, I don't really care. I don't care about your opinion. Fine. I don't give a fuck if I am or I am not. I'm going to do what I think is the right thing to do morally in the moment, but I'm not going to sit here and decay into dust and powder, standing on principle. Like, unless I think that martyrdom is going to earn me something or earn the movement something, there's no point in sacrificing yourself for this if nobody remembers you. So, and that's going to be completely fair, going to be most of us. No one's going to remember us. So unless you're going to go out there and be the next Jesus Christ and they're going to remember you in 2,000 years, really what you should be doing is trying to functionally influence society to move in the direction that you want to go. And if your entire message is, I just don't want to force my views on anybody, what you're really saying is, I don't even want to offer an opinion. And if you're not going to offer an opinion, then just go away, because you're just getting in the way of you and I and everybody else who's trying to do something good.
Yeah, for sure. Just sit in silence, and because that's obviously what you care about, like just not getting involved. So
yeah, I didn't know like these Archie Flower, Nick Sarwark people until I started listening to libertarian podcasts over the last 15 months, and I'm like, oh my god, are these people really serious? Like, these
I'm blocked from all of them. They blocked me. They all blocked me.
I encountered this in the bartending community too, where I just become naturally distrustful of groups, because once you get kind of a little bit of power in a group, it's really hard to want to give it up. And I totally get that, because people should take power whenever they have an opportunity to, because you can use it for good rather than the fucking nonsense or the evil these other people do. But it, if they were to expand their ideas out to the point where it actually affected society, they would probably lose that power, because they don't maintain the moral constitution to be able to really achieve anything. So I get a little bit nervous about the Mises Caucus and shit, which I'm involved in here in Connecticut for sure. And I like the guys that I know personally here and gals. But the overarching kind of political message of the Mises Caucus makes me a little bit nervous, just because I know how groups work. And if they don't have really, really good leadership, they tend to decay into these little circle jerk movements.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that will happen on a local level, but on a national scale, it does make me a little bit nervous. I don't know, that kind of tangented off from where you were going. But.
No, that's fine. And I would add that that is definitely a concern in the future. Right now, I think they're under a very good leader. Michael Heiss knows what he's doing. Like this guy's he's got his shit together. He understands the point, the message, and he's working really hard at that. So, as far as right now, I could see your point in the future, but right now, I think they've got someone in the helm that's he knows how to steer the ship. Like, and he seems to be, well, obviously, he's fucking just winning everywhere he goes right now. So, good job on his part, but good job on all the other people. Like, and I don't just mean the Mises Caucus. The Libertarian Party in general is growing drastically, and I think a lot of that comes down to, as Shane Hazel would call them, the murder cult, is really, really pushed their luck over the last 16 months, and people are pissed off, and rightfully so. So I'm happy to see the Libertarian Party growing. I also share your concerns that groups are dangerous in general, or they can become dangerous in general.
Yeah, they can be dangerous without a certain amount of focus. And when you're talking about politics, you're getting into a scrap match, right, with like the most powerful entity in the history of humanity. And yeah. That's what I try to
nothing more dangerous than the murder cult.
Yeah. And watching it just from the outside, I love the energy. I love the organizational kind of collectiveness of what Michael Heiss is doing and firing people up, and Dave Smith and all that, energizing people, like pep rally-esque. I do trust the
pep rally-esque. That's a great way to word that. I like that.
kind of what it feels like. But I do trust the organizational abilities. It seems like they do have people like dedicated on the ground who are actually doing outreach and organizing the structure of this whole thing. I don't want to say question, but I am watching curiously how far the individuals in the movement will take this before it starts to affect their personal life negatively. I'm not sure they understand the level of detriment that could come their way if they even have like a remote possibility of success. Then it will be very interesting. I hope so. I hope they do. And I hope that they are successful. History has not shown that to be the case on many occasions. And we can see it from the Democrats and the Republicans. The reason why they cave on so many things is because standing up for what you believe in is politically detrimental. So, if
yes,
or you can become like a Ron DeSantis and a Trump and gain a movement by just saying, fuck it, I'm going to say whatever the hell I want, and you all can kiss my ass. So maybe, Dave Smith has something there. Maybe you could do that.
And that's what I'm kind of hoping and gunning on, is that we know Vernon Supreme, he's gonna run. He always does. Like, that's what he does. Like, and he's exceptionally well read. He's a very smart guy. I like him quite a bit. Not the guy I would vote for. No offense, sorry, bud, but I'm just not my cup of tea as far as that goes. But when it comes down to when we're going to run this game in a couple of years or whatever, it looks to me like right now we have like Spike Cohen, Justin Amash, and Dave Smith. I like all three of them. I like two of them more than I like one of them, for sure. But I think Dave Smith's that guy that's just going to pull the Trump / Ron DeSantis, like, fuck you, bite me. I'm going to say what I want to say, and that's how it is. And what I like about that is that makes me think of Ron Paul, right? So that's kind of how I look at it, that it's like, look, I'm not saying that he's 100% the best person. I'm saying that I know he's going to say shit that will either upset or inspire people. And any way you look at it, it causes a conversation.
Yeah, it's probably hard for me to see it. Well, it's obviously hard for me to see it from the outside because there is no outside. So all I know of Dave's message is listening to Dave, and I'm within the community. It would be interesting to see him speak to, an audience full of people who had never heard of him before and gauge their reaction to his message, or how he tailors his message to those people when they're not already on board or already fans.
That would be interesting for anyone that in the libertarian side, though. Whether that's Spike Cohen, whether that's Justin Amash. I mean, I feel like Justin Amash has a one-up in this one because he's obviously spoken to a bunch of people that don't know who he is right off the get-go.
Yeah, but what is it about? Well, I kind of already know the answer to this, but I'll ask what you think. What is it about Republicans that when they get a little bit of power, or they just don't want it anymore, and they just do what Amash does, and they just kind of fizzle out and leave? Like when the other side, the progressive left and the Democrats, will just get reelected for 170 years, like Nancy Pelosi. They just can't give. They're like fucking 100.
Nancy Pelosi, who rode into Washington on a Velociraptor.
Fucking seriously. And like these Republicans who have some morals and they have some like political clout, they just fizzle out. They don't do anything of any value. They don't contribute to anything. They don't. Have
I think they realize they can't.
I think I don't know Justin Amash personally, but I've watched his political career, and he didn't accomplish anything. So why would he be the kind of person I would want to be in charge of this?
Well,
what did he do?
That's well, all right. Good job, Adam. This is how we derail everything, because I'm gonna 100% agree with you, which means thank you for the 100 Twitter followers I just lost and the 25 subs on YouTube. I agree with you. 100% I agree with you. Why are we backing someone, or why is the Libertarian Party, and this is going to go out to Jess Mears, and I apologize, hon. You're beautiful and smart and everything, but you're backing the wrong horse, in my opinion. And it's always been for that reason. What the fuck did he accomplish? What did he fight for? Why? And then he just went, I quit, Now you libertarians back me up, and I'll fight for you guys. It's like, well, how do we know that to be true? You've never done it.
Yeah, dude, I'll take Thomas Massie over Justin Amash any day. That motherfucker.
I would take Thomas Massie in a heartbeat.
He didn't run away with his tail between his
legs. That dude just got fined $5,000 today for not wearing a mask.
He did?
Yeah. Then Nancy Pelosi fines him over and over and over. Like, the dude doesn't even make any money being in Congress now because he just keeps getting fined.
So I saw that tweet when he threw the thing in the little note in the trash can or whatever. So what she can just decide what articles of clothing you're allowed to wear on the.
Apparently.
I don't really follow it to understand how that works.
Apparently, yeah.
So she could say you have to wear a yarmulke from now on every time you walk into the house. Otherwise, we're going to fine you with $5,000. She just gets to decree that. Randomly.
I guess. I don't know, man. I don't like. This is what's happening in the world now, where these fucking idiots just get to determine what's going on, and that's the problem that I have. Is like, let's go back slightly. This is part of my argument. Like, look, if Justin Amash was to get, we're several years out, obviously, but if he was to get the nomination, I would probably try to support him and help him out, right? But I'm in your brain space. Like, what has he done, right? What did he do while he was there that makes him some kind of viable person? Why is everyone so... Like, look, Spike Cohen went out on a limb, right? And got his ass put in jeopardy, even professionally, where they came at him like hellfire and brimstone, and why he didn't even have a reason to do that. He just did that thing. Yeah. One of the arguments I would make the same argument for Dave Smith. He's done the same thing. He's like, well, whatever, I guess if it blows up my life, then we'll maybe have to do it. I'm actually, to be perfectly honest, so we'll just tell the audience at this point, I'm more a fan of Spike Cohen.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Of everyone, because I think Spike is not only incredibly intelligent, but he is, in my head, proven himself to be a guy that will just risk everything for no goddamn reason. He has nothing to gain from it. So I really appreciate Spike Cohen in that regard, and so I'd probably back him. But
I mean, he's also a fantastic communicator, also as well.
Yeah.
You know, he knows how to speak. He goes on all the same shows, and he has an audience. And like
I've been trying to get him on. Well, we're working on it, guys. We'll get him.
And I think ideally, if I'm putting my Libertarian Party hat on right now, I'm looking at, you know, Dave Smith being the communicator that he is. Keep doing that and go out and communicate the message for somebody who actually understands politics, and let that person run. And it seems to me that if Spike ran and with Dave's backing, and Dave was out on Rogan talking about Spike, that to me is a much better combination than Dave trying to run for president. I don't see politics.
Well, but we are years away, and that is something that you and I and everyone in the Libertarian Party has an opportunity to negotiate with. You know, whether you like it or not, Dave Smith is a party leader.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not elected party leader, but he's damn sure a party leader. Maybe that's something we have to negotiate with him to go, hey, look, you know, we're going to work with this guy and get him and push him. And this is what we need you to do, which is, like you said, go on Joe Rogan and talk about how Spike Cohen's so much better than everyone the murder cult's going to offer up. And you know what I mean? The duopoly is just trash. And I think that there's a really good opportunity. And I also think Spike Cohen is probably one of the smartest people on the planet, honestly. Now, if I had my rathers that someone that would run and be able to win, there's only one name, and everyone knows it, and it's Scott Horton. Because you want to talk about shutting down wars, that dude would be like instant. Like, nope, we're done. Now... Most people don't like Scott. Well, and
I love Scott. I think Scott. I don't think he'd do it.
No, he'd never
for
do
his own
it.
sanity. But I mean, he certainly
would never do it.
I mean,
now I will say this: I do want Dave Smith to run, but I only want him to run because I want to see Michael Malice run his press department. Which, come on, dude! Like that would be the funniest shit in the world.
But Malice is a smart guy, man. I just I skimmed through the Anarchist Handbook today. I downloaded it on Kindle, and you know, I read maybe every other word to just try to get through it. And I'll go back because I read a lot of those essays before. I just kind of wanted to get the gist of it before I really sat down and dissected it. And it's such a brilliant mind to select the particular texts that he did.
Yeah.
You know, because you could have put so much in there. And
there's so many essays that he could have used, and he just used all the right ones.
Well, you know, we're kind of geeking out on the Libertarian Party right now, but really what the Libertarian Party has an actual opportunity to do is affect human beings' lives on a local municipal level, and possibly even county or state if they have their druthers about them. But on a local level, you know, where it's not necessarily partisan politics, where you can get on a school board or, you know, even a first selectman. A lot of the towns around here have first selectman. They don't have a D or an R next to their name. So there's ways to do that I would like to see. Well, I know like Libertarian Party here in Connecticut pushes for that all the time because I'm involved with their conversations. That doesn't get talked about a lot on the national level or on the podcast, but really that's the opportunity. And that, I think, if you could get like the right-wing accelerationists and the agorists on board with that message, it really it's a trifecta of focusing on the individual and the community.
Agreed.
You know, I think maybe that's where the disconnect comes between Vin and Sal and like the LP and shit. They see it all as like a national message, but really, I mean, the people I know in the Mises Caucus here in Connecticut or the LP here, like they all, you know, grow their own food, go to farmers markets. I know a guy that sells fucking pot seeds or whatever. Like, they're doing a lot of agorism. You know, they're already involved in that community. They just happen to also be part of the Libertarian Party.
Right.
So maybe that's where the disconnect comes on Twitter when people are arguing about like the correct or incorrect way to anarchy.
Yeah, that's a funny way to word it, and I actually really appreciate that wording. One of the things that I would say is that I have specifically started to try to push getting people, especially in the libertarian or anarchist world, to don't worry about like if Dave Smith or Spike Cohen or any of them are running for president, right? Let's worry about our local areas where we are. Get a libertarian sheriff elected. Do that. Get an anarchist / libertarian district attorney elected. Do that. Because realistically, if you can pull off both of those things, it really doesn't matter who else is in your government.
It's huge.
It's game, set, match. Like it doesn't matter because they'll be like, well, but you have to do this, and they'll be like, no, we don't. We don't have to do anything. You can fight me. So that's a huge push on my end. So that's it. It's like let's get sheriffs and DAs, and then also let's worry about nuclear energy and get that because cheap, efficient energy is a very easy way to keep us all going. You know what I mean? I don't know who. Yeah, Red Dirt Redneck wants to say what up.
What up? I guess I can't see the chat, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh, you don't have it?
Can I see it?
I don't know.
Maybe I hit that thing.
You should be able to see it.
Oh yeah, there we go. Well, now I can't see you. Hold on.
Well, whatever. Are you using a tablet or something?
Yeah, I use a cell phone, not my main cell phone, but the cell phone hooks up through a wire to the mixer and then to the computer. So I don't record on the phone, but I could, and then also record through Audacity on the computer. So. Oh,
okay, I got you. That's why you can't see. Like, yeah, if you're on a computer, you can see the chat and all that. So that, yeah, all right, that makes sense. Anyway, shit, I don't know, man. What else you want to talk about? Like, what you got going on in your world? Like, you've got a great show. So it's all. By the way, all of his shit is down in the description below on this channel. So you guys are gonna want to check that out. He's got great stuff going on. So, let's just talk about your work quick.
The direction I wanted to go with this when I started. Well, I knew where I wanted to go when I started, but I didn't know how to do a fucking show because I'd never done one before. So, the 2 months that I had totally off from work, I kind of taught myself audio production, a little bit of video production, got used to hearing my voice, practiced on some restaurant people, tried to figure out where I wanted it to go. But coming from kind of a mixture of Rothbard and Curtis Yarvin, kind of in my political background, I started to, so early on, I'd had a kind of a place in my heart for the minarchist message and against the anarchist message. The problem I found with the minarchists is that they didn't want anarchy to work, and I did. And so while I understand kind of conceptually the idea that power always finds a way to weasel itself into any situation and kind of destroy the ideal, my thought was how do you engineer Ancapistan in a way that it won't degrade, that it can last? And that
obviously we learned from Twitter last night you argue about lawns.
Well, I mean, I like to throw shit out and see what people say. And not everything I say on social media is something that I technically believe. It's just, I'm curious the responses that people will. So they'll be like, well, that's not what a real anarchist would say. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, motherfucker. Like, you're fucking my game up. Get out of here. It's an experiment, dude. So, but well, one of the things I noticed throughout doing this over the last year is the fact that people lack meaning and purpose in their lives, and that filling that hole in their hearts either comes from, God or Fauci or cheesecake, but it's going to come from something.
Hopefully God, not Fauci.
And so that's been the focus. The focus has been trying to figure out how to integrate all of these things into a society that can really work to get all of us where we want to be and stand the test of time, so that we don't have to keep doing this over and over and over again. And I don't know if that's ever going to be possible, but I'm going to at least talk about it as long as I can.
Right. And you've been doing an exceptionally good job at doing that. I think you and Stacy have been trying to do some work together, which
Yeah,
is
I'd love to. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So like, she's a good one to work with on stuff like that because she likes to do those like multiple form, like we're gonna do 45 minutes here, an hour there, whatever, like documentarian kind of thing where you guys, run it out. Her and Pete Quinines do a lot of shows like that, which are great. I, however, am not that guy. I'm the guy that just brings people on, talks about whatever nonsense we're going to talk about, and then does my very best to just fuck with everyone because it's funny.
Well, I appreciate the forum. I've always said, I'll talk to anybody at any time. I mean, you never know what you're going to learn when you meet somebody new, or you have a conversation about something, or you just free flow. It's to anyone, out there who's thinking of doing this, don't be nervous or anxious. Just talk to everyone and put yourself out there and have an honest conversation. You never know what you're going to pick up. I mean, yeah. I didn't know who Pete Quinones was 15 months ago. There's no way I would be on this journey if it wasn't for Free Man Beyond the Wall. There's no way. It was specifically him bringing Vin on that got me on this journey in the first place and reinvigorated, re-sparked that in me. So, and then I get to meet all these other folks. Nobody had ever heard of me, and maybe they don't still, or they will after this. But I get to meet you. I get to meet all these fun people in these Twitter groups and get to converse with them just because I put myself out there to have these conversations. Yeah. So, the first step is just being vulnerable and saying like, okay, I'm going to put my foot in the water and see what happens.
Right. 100%. And by the way, Pete Quinones has been on the show. Y'all check that out. Yeah. And apparently he stole that episode and put it on his show too. So check that out. Yes. It's fine.
Everybody helping everybody.
Everybody helping everybody. Pete is Pete's one of the smartest people I've ever met. So it's interesting because you found out about Pete after I did. I didn't know who Pete was until honestly probably like 3 months ago. But when I found out who Pete was and I read some of his Substack work, I was like, oh, I have to talk to this person. You know what I mean? And so it's always been a build. Like everything in this show, it's not like I've had a bunch of people ask me over and over, Adam, like, well, how did you get this person on your show? How did you get this person on your show? How did you get this person? And I'm like, I asked them.
Yeah.
You would be surprised what you can do. Like, just ask someone because your options are limited in that situation. They're either going to say, sure, let's do this thing, or, they're just going to ignore you, whatever. Right. Yep. And then you do have that third option, which I've run into in a couple of situations where it's like, oh, well, email my manager kind of situation. I don't do that. I refuse to do that. I'm like, okay, you just answered me to basically tell me no, to send me to the gatekeeper. So I have no interest in talking to you anymore.
I can see how your very relaxed and friendly format probably wouldn't lend itself to somebody who would want you to go through those hoops. I could get that. Yeah, I like this. This is very like colloquial, back and forth conversation. I enjoy this very much. It's the buttoned up ones that are always like the most annoying.
Yeah. So that's how it goes down. Like when they send me to the gatekeepers, and like the person I want to talk to sends me to the gatekeeper. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. Yeah, I get it.
And I'm like, I have no interest in talking to you anymore. And I've actually said that. Like, never mind, I have no interest in speaking to you. And they're like, wait, what? Why? Because you're a coward. Like, you literally just spoke to me and said, go through my gatekeeper, as opposed to what you can't figure out where your schedule book is. It's not that hard. You know what I mean?
I guess. Yeah, I guess so. I wonder though, I mean, for some of the people, they must get bombarded all the time now, though.
I'm sure, but how are you going to respond with, yeah, man, I'd love to do it. Here's my gatekeeper. Yeah. Right? Yeah. As opposed to, they could just say, oh man, I'm sorry, I'm real
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah,
Or,
that's fair. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so when they send you to a gatekeeper, to me, that's a blow off because they know it's never going to happen, right?
That's interesting. I only got the gatekeeper response once, and it was Brian Murarescu, who came out with a book I read over Christmas, and I'm Facebook friends with him. Right, I've had conversations with him on Facebook, and I just sent him a message and was like, "Hey, do you want to come on the show?" And he was like, "I'd love to. Here, talk to this person." And I sent that person an email, and she was like, "Absolutely not, not happening at all," and like really bluntly. And I was like, "Okay,
yeah.
I guess we're not going to have." So I never talked to him again after that. But I enjoyed the book so much, and it's really kind of out of my area of expertise that I was like, "Oh, well, maybe we'll talk about this for a minute." But yeah, no dice.
Yeah, no, I hate that shit when that's what it like. And anytime that I'm like, I reach out, whether it be via email or Twitter or whatever, right? And I reach out to someone and I'm like, hey, I'd like to get you on the show, whatever, talk to you. And the moment that I get back, like, okay, talk to this person, I'm like, nope, I'm done. Never mind. I don't care anymore because I'm not doing that shit. You know what I mean? Like, you literally took the time to respond to tell me to talk to someone else. To me, that's a blow off. So we're good. I don't need to. Not to mention, I don't want to put up with your fucking staff. Like,
right, who you don't know and probably don't have. Well, not that you wouldn't have respect for them as a person, but that's not the reason you reached out.
I don't know this person, and I probably don't respect this person. Well, I obviously don't respect this person because they work for you and they don't work for themselves. So like,
there you go.
There's that. Right on, man. This has been awesome. You have your own show. Tell people right quick what it is that you primarily focus on your on what you do.
So right now I'm focusing on how to kind of bring the idea of morality and mysticism and magic, possibly religion, back into the idea of libertarianism.
Those are all the same word.
Right, but not to everybody, but to you and I.
No, but they're all the same word.
The morality seems to be missing, and there's something about, all fights on all fronts at all times with all weapons and all allies. It's the message of unity. If the people are moving in the same direction that you are, it doesn't matter if it's agorism or right-wing accelerationism or the Libertarian Party or, the left that wants to occupy Wall Street. If we're moving in the same direction, we can figure out a way to have a conversation to get there. But when we get there, what do we do with what we have? Or what do we build that replaces this shit that's so destructive to our lives? And I want to focus a lot on building, not just tearing down. So it's a big kind of encompassing idea that I work through week to week and show to show. It's definitely an evolutionary process. So each show builds on the previous one. I hope people will check out the ones that they like and try to follow along, and certainly contact me to discuss whatever. It's you're talking over me, YER, talking with no G over me. And that's an allusion to my ex-girlfriend who used to say that shit to me all the time. So you're talking over me.com, any podcatcher, YouTube, whatever.
Absolutely. All of that, again, is in the description of this video. You can catch a link. It's a hyperlink. You just grab it. It'll take you right to him, and you guys can follow him. Also, his Twitter's down there. Follow him. Give him shit there because it's probably funny.
Yeah,
it'll be a good time. If you want to tell him why he's wrong about things, that's what I always tell people. Just come tell me why I'm wrong about things. It's always fun. All right, Adam, this has been great. I really appreciate you doing this, brother. And we'll have to do it again another time. When you're a little more relaxed, because obviously you seem very, pin up. Maybe he needs a new girlfriend. Ladies, help him out.
I'm all set in that category.
He's all set. Never mind. Leave him alone, ladies. Leave him alone.
Sorry, ladies, off the market, quite off the market. But no, man, I appreciate the opportunity, and this is always a nice way to end the night, to have a cool conversation with somebody who's like-minded. So no, I definitely appreciate it.
Right on. And just the last point here, Reed, I know you're out there somewhere. Get Adam on and talk to him. He deserves to be platformed by someone at your level. And I just did you a favor, so you owe me one. You're welcome.
I love Reed. I love listening to what he has to say on shows and on Twitter, and I'd love to have a conversation with him sometime.
Right on. We'll get you there, bud. We'll get you there. All right. Peace, homies.
Deuces.